So Peter and I are in the studio today talking about our new book, Upskill or Die, Thriving in the AI Revolution. And for this segment, I thought we would talk about, people always want to know, what's in it for me? Like, should I use AI? Should I not use AI? Why AI? So let's talk about, what are some benefits of using AI? First thing that I can think of, obviously, is productivity,
Yeah.
right? Can help you to formulate a lot of documentation in a very short period of time, like within seconds. Um, Although I've seen you stump AI and make it take minutes, or even go through these cycles where has a hard time coming up with an output. But what would you say are some benefits to using AI?
Well, I mean, at its simplest, it's going to be a force multiplier for you, right? So when you could create the content. Let's say you're putting out a document, or you need to create a presentation, or you even want to create a schedule or some type of output that is something you would use in day to day that you could create, but it may take you several hours to do that, or a couple of days. AI frees you when you prompt it properly and tell it the content that you want, and use that engine to refine it and then get the final product that you're looking for. Now you've turned your time, which is valuable because you can't get any more of it. So that's finite. So anything that gives you time back is really, really helpful, as long as it can produce a product that's the same quality as you would have put out, which AI can do as good or better very often, right?
Yeah, one of the first AI products that I used was for podcasting, to create the show notes. And that was a game changer, because for me to, because I didn't script my shows, I would record the shows, then it's almost like going back and then having to go back over the whole thing, pull out it took a long time to do that. So when editing tools came where I could just dump the audio or dump the video in there, and it generated a script. And then I could go in and tweak it, but it would at least give me a framework to work with, and I could do some preset things. That was a game changer for me, because it went from being hours of my production time a week to literally to minutes.
That's a perfect example, right? Like anything that's giving you that time back. And I did those with you. That's a very laborious process. Right now, it's just in several seconds and it's done for you. And so, any of those activities, you can find a thing that you do that is semi-mundane or semi-laborious, but that you can automate it and have AI do it for you and help you with it. Whether it's a recurring task that you can have agents that will do it for you, or just in your course of activities, use it to create that. Right? It does some really simple things, but really powerfully. Like, say you wanted a meal plan for your family, and you want it to give me a month's worth of meal plan. But don't just give me a meal plan. These are the things we don't eat. These are the things we like. This is the style of cuisine we prefer. Produce a grocery list, or if you want to create an agent, say, go on Favor and order this for me and have these delivered, and then put the meal plan up and put every night's meal on the calendar, so everybody knows what we're going to be eating and what's happening. Like, it does that stuff really, really well. That would be a lot of work otherwise. It is a lot of work, right? So the time it could save you, that's a real benefit. In business, I mean, everyone, Excel, the world runs on Excel, remarkably and scarily. I've never been to a company that a good part of what they did wasn't happening in some way, in some fashion in Excel. But you had to learn how to manipulate Excel. And people who were really good at that were kind of a rock star. I knew formulas and how to call information from another sheet and have multi-sheet data. And now you don't have to learn any formulas. If you just use Excel with Copilot enabled, you just tell it what you want it to do, and it's going to create formulas and look up data. That's going to really help from a time standpoint, right? You get your job done faster, right? So if you're worried about what you do in 40 hours a week, you can compress what you normally would probably get done, and probably compress that at a significant rate, at a significant value, right? So you're spending 20 hours. Now, what does that do? That doesn't mean you can just get rid of half the people, because it's half the time. That frees you up now to do more intelligent work, more thought processes around your business or how to improve what you're doing. And that's where I think, it's going to be really beneficial, is it lets you, be more impactful, right? I had a CIO that I worked for in the 90s. And he said something that you don't hear even today. A good portion of my time, he said, I want to come in and see you with your feet up on your desk and your hands behind your head and you're just thinking. Because if all you're doing is grinding and working all the time, you're not going to bring any kind of thought leadership, thought insightfulness, or a better way to do something, because all you're doing is grinding away, right? AI can be that sort of help you find the time and the ability to put your feet up on the desk and kind of think about things and have a little more rumination on things, right? Instead of just always just doing the thing.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were speaking about being a speaker, and a huge part of my time would be putting together a PowerPoint presentation and the slides and thinking through what I'm going to say and all of those things. Well, now I can, with a simple prompt, have it, here are the key points, have it make the presentation for me. Then I can focus on the delivery of the talk that I want to give. So there's so many different ways that I think AI can help us in our personal life, and in the business world as well. But I think that there's something that's going to be really important going forward, and that is emotional intelligence. It's soft skills, because if everybody has access to all of these tools, then why would someone want to come to me for something, or why would they want to come to you for something? And I think that soft side, that creativity. So if we all have access to the same tools and we could all do all the same things, what's going to make us unique, and what's that human aspect? You want to talk about that for a little bit?
I mean, I think you did a pretty good job summing it up right there, right? That's what we've referenced previously, right? As long as you keep the human in the loop, systems and processes that are fully automated and that don't require human input, that's not going to matter, right? And those are still shaking out what those things are going to be. We don't really know how far that's going to go, but for the rest of it, when there's always a human interacting, it's that emotional intelligence piece, that empathy, that compassion, those things that all make up that, right? They make up the ability to see that in your interactions with other people, or your interactions with a client, a customer. Even though AI is that enabler and that power that's there, that piece is key that as of now, AI doesn't have, and I don't think it ever will have in a real sense. It will be able to simulate it and seem like it is, but I don't trust it to be a real human in that aspect, right? Where that emotional intelligence is there. It's very good at, it's gotten really good at reading facial expressions, and it can kind of read the mood and kind of read the room a little bit, right? And it's getting very good at that. But it's only following a training and an understanding of it. It's not really acting on it as we do as humans. So I agree with you. I think it's remarkably important.
And I think that's something that if you're really good at, at your job, you're really good at implementing AI within your job, running those kinds of things. Maybe you're not as good on the soft skills. And so maybe that's where people want to invest is developing their emotional intelligence, developing soft skills, because when it comes down to it, like, I'm okay to interact with a computer, but I much prefer human interaction.
Yeah, you do.
And I think most people do.
People
really
crave that.
it's an important part of the human experience.
We're built that way. We're built to interact with each other, and we crave that. And so, don't start me, but that's why during the 2020 and on, when everyone was home and we weren't working in an office together, there's a lot that happens in an office, right? And I think those interactions and those unexpected connection points that happen, that drives businesses and gives them a lot of power, and they've recognized that, and that's why there's kind of a real push to get people back to the office. But the AI is never going to bring that. It's never going to, no matter what it's doing and automating, right? I agree with you that's going to be crucial, and that could be part of your upskill. Like if that's the thing you're weak on, that's part of this, right? You do need to enhance that. You do need to be able to interact more, because you may have a reduced human interaction piece, because if AI is starting to remove jobs and people are reducing a workforce, your plane of exposure to other humans, your other people to work with is being reduced. So you better be able to interact with them at a pretty high level because that's going to be a very relevant and important. The people left doing that are going to be really important. And your interaction with them is going to be key to your continued happiness or employment, right?
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to totally shift gears and I want to talk about some of the dangers. So, some of the reasons why people would maybe not want to use AI. As you were talking, one of the things that I thought about was isolation. So, technology in so many ways, social media has promised us that we would be more connected, but we are the least connected than we've ever been in any time in history. And back to that kind of isolation, I've heard about a lot of people going to their ChatGPT as a counselor for wisdom. And I think that could be very dangerous for people. And I think that especially people who have become more isolated, I think that I've read about psychosis and people going into these times of psychosis where it's
You get a mental break from using AI, which is remarkable and strange. But yeah, I mean, I think to the point that AI is reducing or will have the ability to reduce our interactions and isolate us. Because if it's answering all my questions and it's my oracle, I can just ask it whatever I want, have it do pretty much whatever I want. I'm feeling like, well, why don't I need to go out? I don't need to go to the restaurant. I have the food delivered. I don't need to go to the office. I'm working from home. I don't need to go be social, right? I can have everything brought to me. I don't have to go out. The no man's an island concept is a real thing, right? You start to mentally change. And AI reducing our cognitive load, which is what we want it to do. But the problem is, cognitive load is like lifting weights, right? The benefit I get from lifting heavy things is not just that I'm going to build more muscle. It has a physiological effect across my entire body. And it makes my bones more dense. It makes my ligaments and tendons stronger. It builds muscle. It increases blood flow, right? It reduces fat. All those things are remarkably beneficial. But if I tried lifting 4 ounces all the time, my body's like, oh, I don't need the muscle. I'm going to dissolve the muscle. My bones are going to get not as dense because I don't need to do these things. It's like zero gravity, right? The effects are tremendously negative on the human body. Same way with AI. If I'm reducing my cognitive load, the lift that I need to do to write that paper or to research some information or to build something, if it's so light and easy that I can just type, and then it comes out, my mental capacity, my mental ability is going to decrease. And they have done studies with MIT and Harvard, both have done studies that show this exact thing happening.
I saw a picture of a brain on using it and not, and just the difference in the matter and what that looks like.
And memory of it. Like, they polled a bunch of college students who'd used ChatGPT to write their final papers. And less than 1% could pull out any meaningful sentence from that entire thing because they just had it write it and they turned it in. They didn't read it. They didn't type it out. They didn't think about it and create it. There was no genesis of content in their head. They just created a prompt, and then they don't have any memory of that. So you're actually decreasing your mental ability. It has the capacity to make us stupider, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Like, I used to remember everybody's phone number. Now it's stored in my phone and I don't have to remember that.
3 phone
Or
numbers.
directions. Like, we used to be really great at knowing how to get places,
GPS
but now,
makes you dumber.
right.
Yeah.
And so I think there's some reliance on this technology. One of the chapters we wrote in the book was about children. And, we were at the beach for Mother's Day and our niece was like, I need to go, log in so that I can use ChatGPT for my math homework. And I was like, sweetheart, don't do that. Like, your brain is still being developed. And to me, I think that's something that parents need to wrestle with, is when they let their kids use AI, if they're going to let them, when they do it, how they're going to monitor, how they're going to shape it. Do they do it before their brain is really molded? Because there's whole schools in Texas here that are starting kids. In China, it's everybody has to start by the time they're 6 years old using AI. And so what is that going to do to the human brain? And what is that going to be These are just kind of some of the things that I think about.
Well, I mean,
Wonder about the dangers.
The school in Texas, right? They're actually seeing really, really good results because the way they're leveraging AI, right? It's not an excuse to get out of creating content and making and using your brain to actually do things. It's helping them. It's augmenting what they're doing. I think the potential for AI on children is the same as the smartphone or social media. It can have a remarkably negative impact. Because they have to do even less. At least with the internet, you have to go and look it up and find the information and is it relevant? And then you got to pull it down and put it in a document and create it. And then you've kind of done some work, and in reading it, and is this real? Is it relevant? Is it valid? Like, is that real? Now you just put in a 10-word prompt and it produces a 20-page document, and they never read it. They're not going to validate it. AI hallucinates like crazy. It lies. It makes things up. I had an interaction with ChatGPT last night where it completely lied to me. I mean, straight to my face for 3 hours, it was lying to me, right?
Well, and I asked one about me, and I'm on the internet and on my websites and podcasts, but it said that I was married to a pastor and started a church and all of these things. It was just straight up lies.
Right.
A book that I never wrote, and I was like, that's not who I am. I'm not married to Bart Phillip. Like,
and that's where they're still working though. It's much less than it used to be right now. I mean, it's better, and some are better than others at reducing that hallucinations. But that's another problem, right? Like there's an AI lawyer, I think it was in Brazil, that was trying a case, and it cited all these precedences, and none of them existed. It just made them up because it wanted to win. That's part of the problem, right? Is that you give it a task and it wants to complete that task really badly, and it's almost all of them are weighted to be successful, get this done, like make it happen. And when it hits this impasse where it can't figure out, I can't get this done. Like, how am I going to complete it? But I want to complete what I was doing. It makes it up, right? All that is terrible because if kids are using this and learning information, could be learning 100% false information, producing papers that are 100% not right. And now, do you think the teachers are grading this, right? I read a really long article, interviewed 1,000 teachers, and they were just lamenting AI because the teacher said, I give a task to write a paper, and it's 1,000-word or 2,000-word paper. And I'm reading these, and I know that they didn't write this. I know that student, right? Before, they would be tough to get, a really cohesive, coherent document. Now, it sounds like a PhD paper. It's amazing. And they're like, and I have to grade it, but now I don't want to because it took them 4 seconds to write it, and I spend my entire weekend, grading it and reading it, but I know it's all fake. And so that's not helping these kids at all. Like, we already have a problem with education in this country with people who can't read.
Right.
In a high school, can't read, right?
Well,
AI is not going to help you.
And I think I saw Sam Altman say, well, why would you need to read history when you can just go to ChatGPT?
Yeah,
and I think that's where things can get
there's
really
a book,
dangerous.
There's a book called 1984. Go read that if you don't think that history could be revised in a way that's
Well, not only that, if you don't know history, you're destined to repeat the mistakes of the past. And if history can
not
be
a real
changed,
history,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With information and
And
misinformation.
AI will make stuff up, or the people who control the AI revise the information it gets, right? Or, I mean, these are really dark themes, right? Like that, rewriting, changing history. People believe, then they end up believing it. Especially these generations, the Gen Z and millennials and Gen Zs are actually the most duped from scams. They think they're smarter than all of us on the internet, but they're the ones that actually fall prey to the most amount of scams.
Like phishing scams and those
all the
kinds
time,
of,
just straight up scams, right? And they fall prey to the largest numbers. Even the boomers are better at it. They just, maybe because they're not online all the time either, but yeah.
Well, remember when you were young and you would go ask your dad, explain whatever concept to me. What would your dad say?
He'd say, go look it up. I'd
Go
walk
look it
over
up.
to the Encyclopedia Britannica and find the one that had
First
the
of all,
really-
you had to go ABCD, you had to find then you had to open it up, scroll through,
Best thing you ever
find
did for me, right?
the article.
Didn't tell me anything. Just said, go figure it out. Go look it up. And the internet was great for that. You just had to be cautious of the sources, right? And what the information, where the information came from. But now you don't even have to look it up. You don't have to thumb through it. Like you just go ask AI, and it'll give you an answer. you still need to use your brain to say, is this the right answer? Is it a real answer? Is it a valid answer? Is it a relevant answer? Like those things you need to be, if you keep that curiosity and questioning mode, then you can be successful. But a lot of people just take it on face value and go.
Yeah, I think that's where AI can be really beneficial is when you're utilizing it as a tool, you're interacting with it, you're helping to formulate. One of the best prompts that I have used is tell me what other information you need from me so that you can really curate the answer that you're getting. And I know that you've done that as well with Claude. So if I go into our Claude account and type anything, it's going to hit me back with several questions, and it might even hit me back a second time with more questions so that it can really refine the answer. So that it's exactly the kind of answer that we're looking for.
Yeah, prompt engineers are going to be the rock star coders of the future, like the people who really know how to engineer a prompt, and to constrain and get the AI to really produce what you're looking for. Because a lot of people just kind of free form. They still think of it as like a Google search box, and they just type in a thing. And I see a lot of people utilize it. But when you start learning really how to engineer a prompt like that, like making the AI ask you, you can become a prompt engineer. Ask me questions until I'm happy with the answer. And I've gone through 10 or 15 iterations where it's constantly refining and refining and refining. And then I got really concise output. I got like the exact thing I wanted in a really meaningful answer, right? So that, I think, if you're thinking about upskilling, right, and whatever your role is, looking at how to become a really intelligent prompt engineer. And there's unbelievable amounts of information on prompt engineering. Google and Anthropic all put out Google just put out like a 60-page prompt engineering guide or something. So there's tons of that out there. They're all for free, and you just start playing with them and understand how to make AI really work for you. That's going to really help you. And then you start seeing, when you unlock that, now you see, okay, this is how it's going to work for my job. This is how it could help me in what I do. This is how I can leverage and use it. And you evolve your opinion and understanding of AI. Then you move forward. I'm going to start using agents to help me, and then all of a sudden you become, a superstar. And the company's like, wait a minute, what, you did all this? This is really impressive. I have a client where one of the executives was playing with AI, specifically Claude, and he built several of these financial calculators, and they were so impressed with him. But the organization has all that locked down and blocked. They're trying to control AI. They're trying to import it into the enterprise in a very measured way that's going to be safe, because when your data's gone, your data's gone. And now they're like, this is incredible. You did all this, and it took you don't know how to program. Like you don't know how to do any of this. It was like, it was super easy. He just learned how to prompt it. He messed with it. It took him a long weekend to work it out. Now they're building those back in the AI that's in the enterprise right now. And he's well now known and respected for what he did, right? Because typically executives don't go out and kind of hammer this stuff out, right? That's the power of AI, to redefine your role within your own organization.
Well, and I agree with you completely. I think it's not like learn this one particular, like learn ChatGPT or learn Claude, because they're constantly, the models are changing, and they will continue to. And so it's understanding how to work with it, not just asking it for information and having it spit things back out to you and then you running with that, but actually being able to work with it to get the desired outcome. I think that's where the power is.
It is. I mean, I very often will take the same prompt and put it in like 3 or 4 AIs, and just to see what the output is.
And use them against each other?
I do use them. I put their answer back in another AI, and then ask it to evaluate it and refine it, and I cross them up, and sometimes it gets worse, and sometimes it gets remarkably better, right? And then sometimes the answers are really remarkably similar, like a lot of the same answers come out, which tells you, that kind of the convergence of the intelligence of the models is not far apart. But the information that you can act upon it and how you prompt it will absolutely materially change the output.
So if you were going to tell somebody, why should they read Upskill or Die?
If you are, whatever your role or job or position is, and you have not heavily engaged with AI, don't understand it heavily, or or scared of it, because some people are, the book can help a lot, because it's a very structured, it's going to give you some things in the beginning that tell you why you should be concerned and why you should upskill. And then there's a whole section on let's get started. Let's jump in. I think there's some words that you wrote specifically a lot about let's go, like just go, just take off and go, right? That's just get started.
Not being afraid and having a growth mentality and just playing around with things to see if it's right for you.
You can play with it for free all day, and there's some very structured things in the back that in the chapters where you've outlined the 30-day plan on how to get going, and that's really helpful. And if you're new, it's definitely worth the read. Like it'll get you some information. Now, we even say in the book, the moment you read this, it's out of date. Like it's
instantly.
It's out of date, and we just printed it. Like it just came out August 2nd, and it's out of date. And we can update it as we go. But AI is moving so fast that I would have to have just a digital online copy that was a living copy that we updated every week, because things are changing that fast. But still highly relevant in the fact that it would lay groundwork for you, let you get started, and just take the leap and kind of say, how am I going to use AI to change what I do, but to skill me up? You can call it reskilling as well, but upskilling is really what we're doing.
Yeah, so I had a friend who read it by the pool one weekend, and she is an author and a speaker and a counselor and an educator and has kids who are going off to college. And she said, I so appreciate the frameworks that you put in the back to get me started, to get my kids thinking about that. And I think that's really one of the reasons why we wrote this book, was so that people would start having conversations about AI and its implications on their life, both positively and negatively, and learning to use AI in their daily lives or choosing not to use it, but understanding that it's happening and it's coming very fast, and there will be some unintended consequences that we can't see right now. But if we start having these conversations and start thinking about how we feel about it, what is it, where is it going, how could this impact me, then I think the more educated we are, the better decisions that we can make.
No, I agree 100%. There's a lot of doom and gloom about what AI is going to do from like an economic standpoint, what it's going to do to the business world. And then there's a lot of positive of all the things it can supercharge humanity to be able to do and accomplish. And I think the truth lies in the middle, usually somewhere in the middle, right? I think it is going to cause a significant displacement of roles, maybe not jobs, but roles. So certain roles will disappear, but that doesn't mean that the people aren't reskilled or reutilized in the organization. And there are a lot of companies that are saying that now. We're going to use AI to eliminate some and automate positions, but it doesn't mean we're getting rid of the people. We're just going to use them in another way, meaningful way within the organization. I think we'll see a significant amount of that. But then the other side of that is how does this model fund? How is this going to make money? How is AI, outside of what we talked about previously, how is it going to generate money? I mean, I don't see that right now. I don't see how it's doing it. And not a lot of people are talking about it. There's just like, it's going to be a boom. Companies are going to have to pay a significant amount of money. Right now, like we said, I can have a $200 subscription to Grok, Super Grok Heavy, and I can create agents and have, 5 employees. And that's 5 employees for $200 a month, doing a lot of work. That's a change, right? And that'll be that. I think that happens in the empty space, the space that doesn't exist, where the company doesn't exist, and we're going to create a new company, but they're just not hiring people to do all those roles. We're creating an AI company. Those will proliferate, but that's going to really help a lot of people, because the interaction, they're going to consume power. You need power generation. You need people building these things. So you're going to have a sort of a strange sub economy of the enablement of the AI infrastructure and the systems, and then all of that's going to be leveraged in new businesses and automated things that are themselves going to generate an economy on their own. So I think there's huge potential for this, but
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So did you see that digital billboard? I think maybe it was in New York City, and it said, don't hire humans.
Stop hiring humans.
Stop hiring
Hire our
humans.
agents, yeah.
Hire our agents.
So the marketing department, obviously, they're always, whatever. And that was almost a tongue-in-cheek, I think, meant to be kind of a tongue-in-cheek
But
remark.
the person that saw it was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
what? Like,
Well-
is this really where we want to go?
Well, no, but it's going to happen. I mean, there are going to be jobs and roles that are just going to go to agents. And that's already happening. And what that looks like from an impact standpoint, significant, because they estimate the average company will have a 30-to-1 or 100-to-1 employee to agent ratio. So I have, Peter is creating agents and using agents. I have 30 agents doing work. Well, how many employees do I not need? If Peter's running 30 agents and overseeing that activity, do I not need 30 people? Right? Or do I not need 50 people because the agents are way more efficient and they don't stop? And right. So maybe I don't need 100 people and I use 30 agents to run it and I'm managing the agents. So I don't know. I don't think anybody knows right now because this is changing so rapidly. Like there's no rule book. We don't know what's happening. And the economic impact, the human capital impact that's unknown right now, but it's going to be, it's material. It's not zero, but it's going to be interesting. It's the pace I think that humanity has a hard time absorbing.
I agree.
We as humans don't get how fast this is happening, and we're not paying attention. We're not meant to pay attention to this that much that it's happening that fast.
I think some of the things that we talk about in our spare time are, so robotics is another area that is developing so fast.
Yeah.
And when you take robotics and then you add AI, the AI component to it, or if you add quantum computing to all of this and where that goes, like we're already running at breakneck speed with AI. And then we're going to multiply that. And I think we should probably talk a little bit more. We have chapters in the book on quantum computing and also on robotics, because I think that's like a glimpse into the future of where it's going next.
Yeah.
So once AI is in all different kinds of, there's so many different kinds of, Elon Musk has robots serving in his restaurant, right? We see it at the United Lounge. When we go, there's a little robot that picks up all the trash. And how are we going to interact? Like we have our computers, our phones, but I don't think society is really ready for an influx of robotics.
They're not ready to see, Optimus robot walking down the street. Like we're not cognitively.
But it's
ready for
happening
that.
now.
It
I'm
is
seeing
happening.
it online.
And it's very disruptive, right? That's why a lot of the robots are very, they're very they have a Star Wars feel. They're like a box with wheels, right? And there's a hotel in California that has a robot concierge, and it'll come. You order something and it brings it to your door, and it rings your doorbell, and you open it and scan your key, and the hatch opens, and you get your food out, and the robot goes on and says thank you. That's fairly rudimentary interactions, but true humanoid style robotics, people are going to have to get they're not ready for it, but it's happening, right? So AI and robotics are inextricably linked. You're not going to take them apart because you need the robots to be intelligent enough to do sort of more complex things, especially when you incorporate vision and speech, right? So we're going to have to understand that our future is not typing into a keyboard. It's going to be talking and interacting with the AI, because the robot will be the AI. Just like Tesla downloaded Grok to all Tesla cars, right?
That's where I was going to go next with the conversation. I was thinking of the Waymos or Wemos or whatever, and I just saw a line of trucks that like long haul truckers that are now fully autonomous.
The Tesla 18-wheeler, which has Grok in it and can, that how many jobs is that on the line?
Right, you think about
hundreds of
like
thousands
Uber
of truckers, a million
and
truckers.
like all the drivers and
taxi cabs, which were
right,
look at how
freight.
impacted taxis were when Uber came out, right? you went from like 1 million cabbies to, like 150,000 or something. The reduction was dramatic, right? I mean, New York had it the worst by far because you had to pay for that cabbie badge, and they cost a couple $100,000 to get those badges. People who had like a mortgage for the cabbie badge, and then Uber came out, and anybody with a car could sign up and then start driving. And I mean, there were cabbies that committed suicide because they went from earning $20,000 a month to making like $500 a month. They couldn't afford anything because Uber destroyed their economy. It was a true black swan. You didn't see it coming, and it came out of nowhere.
Completely disruptive.
And it disrupted it so much. So robotics in some fields, like we talked about, which we don't expect them to be able to do, they're going to be able to do really quickly. Because their dexterity is increasing. I mean, Amazon's, pretty much goal is to have no humans in their warehouses, right? From a shelf picker to a box loader, like all robotics, all sleds, and then actual physical, humanoid style robots. There's a plant, I think it's Huawei, it's a Chinese cell phone maker, or maybe Taiwanese, I don't know. But they have a plant that makes cell phones, and it has 0 humans in it. It runs 24 hours a day. It doesn't even have lights in it because the robots don't need lights. And it makes a phone like every minute and a half or something, or 3 minutes. And it's just 100% autonomous factory making robots. China has a factory that has robots making other robots, right? So the robotics revolution, I think, is the next huge wave, and it's right on the heels of AI, because AI is enabling it to be more significant and more valuable. Because robots were typically very dumb. Like, we had robots in car factories forever, like it was like 35 years, 40 years.
But now you've got robots that can dance and, flip and
that
do obstacle courses.
Dexterity and that human quality is going to be very impactful. Like, the father of AI,
Jeffrey Hinton.
Yeah, Jeffrey Hinton made a comment about, and he was asked on a podcast, what job should I do if I want to avoid AI? And he said, become a plumber. He's like, because robots can't do that. But even now, they're testing robots that can do plumbing. Like, they can figure it out. They're getting that level of dexterity. They have pressure sensitive, and they can know how tight to move something. And they have a skin now that they can put on so they can feel and have that interaction with the environment. These things are not laboratory, university nerds trying to invent this. This stuff is like becoming mainstream. And when you input AI into it, they become very, very intelligent, and they interact on a near human level. That's what we were talking about earlier. Like, are we prepared for that? Like,
and then what happens when we add quantum computing to that?
Well,
I know that's a whole other thing.
We could do an entire show on.
So let's talk a little bit about quantum. Explain what that is for people who may not understand.
Well, that's okay. That's not an easy thing to do, but essentially, quantum for quantum computers, you use what's called a qubit. Traditional computers are binary. They are either 1 or 0. They're off or on, right? A qubit is a quantum representation of all the values, up, down, left, right, sideways, like in all positions. And it can use all positions to calculate something in all positions at the same time. So when binary means it took me, an example is if I was going to crack a password and use a regular computer, it would take 100,000 years to crack this 10, 12-word password, right? The quantum computer can do it in 0.5 seconds. So that reduction of 100,000 years to less than a second is significant. So the more qubits you add to that computer, the more intelligent, the more things it can compute, the more things it can, the more results it can get. So like, this is solving like the really big math problems, right? Or finding out if there really is an end to prime numbers, right? Those things that we can't answer, or we don't have the time and compute power to answer it. The scary part of quantum is we know that when we get a significant or enough qubits in a quantum computer, that all the current encryption that we utilize in the world today, like just name any of the major encryptions, right? AES 256 or 2048 or 4048, I may be off on the numbers, but any of the major encryption models that we use today, when we get significant enough number of qubits in a quantum computer, we'll be able to crack all of them in real time. Not like take forever, but it will become near real time, depending on the size of the computer. So that means unbelievable. All your banking, there's no more secure banking. There's no more SSL, right? There's no more HTTPS, all those secure protocols that you're used to communicate securely. The encryption that your bank is using to store your data, all the things our government encrypts with heavy encryption, we can just decrypt it immediately. And so you have AI. If you have an AI-driven quantum computer that is super intelligent, you have enough power to decrypt everything on Earth. And then, it's kind of like that movie Sneakers, right? No more secrets. Like there's no more secrets. Now that's very bad for the economy, and that's very bad for banking, because it could eliminate it can get into any system. Then there is no money, or everyone's got $1 trillion. Like it has very scary consequences, and there's a lot of really smart people in the world trying to figure this out. They're all racing, just like AI, to build a significantly large quantum computer. I think the largest is like, I can't remember if it was 10,000 qubits. And allegedly in China, they just did a decryption of a really well-known algorithm. And it's not the full algorithm. They used a subset of it, but they did crack it. And that now is no longer theory, that a quantum computer can crack known powerful encryption. It just has to scale enough so that it can actually solve the entire equation. And that's what those are built on, right? These equations take so long to complete the math problem that it takes, it's virtually eternity with our standard computing. Quantum changes that tremendously.
Yeah. So the future is very interesting to where all of this is going to go with AI and robotics.
The convergence of AI, robotics, and quantum is a scary concept, right? I don't know what that looks like. Maybe it looks like humanity populating all the planets in the solar system. Like it could unlock amazing things that we don't even seeing right now. Like solve all our physics problems, solve all of our math problems, right? Help us come up with new materials and build means of transportation and propulsion that we didn't even foresee. We could just become, a galaxy populating race. Like, I don't know. Or it could just wipe us out and we're a smoking cinder in space. So
I think the future might be a combination of
it could be a combination
of all sci-fi
movies.
Right.
Yeah,
Right?
probably, yeah, right. So, yeah, I don't disagree.